Thank you so much for joining us. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're calling from in the world. I don't think I've ever seen such a wide set of geographic locations of people attending our masterclasses or indeed any of our events so far. So this is amazing. But welcome to our week 5 of our Monday Masterclass series. Today we're honing in on Viva Engage live events and AMAs. Usually we get to have a small number of presenters, but today we've really brought the whole brains trust. There's too many people to actually go through here, so I'm going to ask all of my colleagues to introduce themselves when they get started. And just briefly, I'm James. I'm on the Viva Engage customer experience team. Now, before we get started, a few short announcements. The first is we have a brand new Modern Communications microsite, which is a resource to assist all corporate communicators, especially those who are focused on driving AI business transformation, with resources, guides, helping you connect with others, support leaders, and reach audiences, and all kinds of good stuff. As part of that, we've been running our first Fridays AI for Communicators session, and the next session is on prompting for communicators. Help you improve your prompting, learn from our own communicators and how they learned how to prompt, and of course, use Copilot as your partner to improve your communications process. That is next Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern, with the link signed up there. And I'll just ask one of my colleagues to maybe put that in the chat too. One more quick reminder is of the communications track at the Microsoft 365 Community Conference in May. There's still time to register. You can still use the discount code SAVE150. I'd love for you to click on a reaction if you're attending the community conference. Our team can't wait to meet you there. Bit of wayfinding. We've hit week 5 with one more week to go. I know some of you have been to every single session, which is amazing, and provided us with lots of feedback that we've hoped to incorporate into this session today. I'd like to just ask if everyone could give a reaction. Who has been to at least one other masterclass? Could you hit a heart, a thumbs up, a clap? I think they're landing well. Oh, wow. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. We hope that you will learn as much from this one as much as you did from the others as well. Quick agenda. First of all, we're going to kick off with how we run town halls and AMAs ourselves at Microsoft. Then we're going to go into a deep dive on how to actually use Viva Engage to run an AMA or a live event. Then we're going to go into a bit of how we see the future of events, followed by a roadmap session also to show you where we're heading with all of this. Now, last thing I have to say is if you're willing to share something you learned, either on LinkedIn or our customer community, we were able to provide a couple of winners with some nice swag last time. So if you post something on LinkedIn or in our customer community, we'll be pulling out of the random hat a couple of winners and we'll send you something nice. But now I have great pleasure to hand over to John to get us started on Microsoft's own journey with live events and town halls.
Thank you, James. My name is John Cerrone. I manage Microsoft's global executive and employee communications community. So I think I have the same role that many of you on the call today do as well. I've been at Microsoft for almost 34 years. I've grown up at Microsoft and I've seen how the comms landscape has certainly changed. I see all the shocking reactions there. And events has been a part of Microsoft's core DNA on the employee comm side since I think I started here back in the 90s, and that's true today. In fact, events are our #1 channel to shape and mold employee opinions at Microsoft. You can see here some of the different kinds of events that we do internally. We, of course, have our CEO Town Hall series. We do about 6 of those a year with Satya and his leadership team. We have org all hands, of course, which are sort of traditional, produced events that are hybrid in nature. They tend to be a lot of leader sort of shared content, lots of demos, presenters, more packaged content typically. And the kind of newest event form we're doing a lot more of these days are AMAs, which are Ask Me Anythings. And I'll spend more time kind of this morning talking about sort of the role of the AMA and why that event format is sort of increasing so much in popularity. I think, Microsoft, like any company of any scale, uses a wide range of tools that won't surprise you. And before we kind of get into the choices around what channels we use internally, we have to step back and think about, within Microsoft, what drives satisfaction with our leader communications. This is, I think, a super important slide to understand the choices that we make within Microsoft about our comms approach. If you ask employees and look at what drives kind of that satisfaction with leader and employee engagement, the number one driver is, are leaders authentic in their communications and have they built trust with their organizations? That sort of trust dimensions become more and more important over the last 4 to 5 years, I think, since the pandemic sort of started and different things are shaping the workforce. Number two is, has that leader created opportunities to build connection and create community? That's more important than ever, I think, in today's dispersed hybrid world. Are they creating clarity around the strategy of the organization? And are they thought leaders? And it's those four things that really drive satisfaction with any leader's individual communications. I mentioned that trust, that number one, was by far and away the top sort of predictor here. And when you unpack what it means to build trust, our internal data tells us those four different qualities, kind of the top part of the slide. The first one is authenticity. Again, are they being authentic in their comms? I think at Microsoft, at least, we had a difficult time managing that during the all virtual kind of height of the pandemic, when so many comms were more scripted and more controlled, as all comms went virtual. Are leaders addressing topics employees care about in a timely fashion? Sort of that's a critical dimension of sort of any kind of engagement. Are leaders sort of showing that they're listening and addressing topics employees care about? Have they built an environment that creates and wants and encourages open and transparent dialogue? And are they listening? Right? Those four things sound really relatively easy to do, but in fact, they're difficult and require a lot of intentionality. But they're all critical to building trust. And then what are the channels that sort of build trust the best based on these dimensions? We found at Microsoft that it is events, right? Events are the number one sort of most impactful channel, both kind of the traditional all hands and the AMAs, some kind of combination. Of course, emails from leaders are still critical, and then Viva Engage is our third most widely preferred channel these days, which is pretty impressive for a brand new channel. And the most important voices that matter are, of course, the voices of your senior leaders, the voice of the CEO and managers. So at the end of the day, before we get into discussions of events or intranets or, Teams or any channel that we're using, we step back and look at our data and look at, what is driving sort of satisfaction with our employee engagement internally. And so it's these voices and these channels that matter. So I think that's a good, tee up for today's conversation. You're going to hear a lot about how we do employee events and sort of what are the different sort of tools and features that you can use and leverage. Before I kind of wrap up here, I'll just share, we do so many events at Microsoft. We, of course, have lots of thoughts around best practices and what works well for us. This is a list, I think, are some 8 sort of top tips for us that we've found, and I'm sharing them all with you. Um, that they range in kind of, sort of the obvious to the more, I think, maybe subtle here. The first thing is, there's always a balance of risk versus transparency that you're trying to balance in events that are like this. And so every leader has a different tolerance for risk in formats like this. But when you can, try and include at least 1 to 2 sort of, quote unquote, provocative or difficult questions to address. Even if the leader's answer has to be, somewhat at that sort of corporate level where they can't get too specific, employees appreciate leaders trying to take on these very difficult and complex issues. Try and change and vary the time of day when you offer your events, when you have a global workforce. That's certainly critical when you're trying to be inclusive of different time zones and different regions. Pull your questions in an AMA from a variety of sources and try and get a bunch pre-submitted. Some leaders are very comfortable taking questions in real time, most are not. So having that combination of sort of pre-submitted and real is critical. Of course, include that request for pre-submissions in all of your pre-event communications. And again, cast a wide net. We use a number of different sources to gather questions before our CEO town halls. That's proven to be, I think, the smart approach within Microsoft. I won't drain the rest of the slide. You have it as a takeaway, but I think all these things are sort of critical as you look and sort of think about what works well. And I think the team will share a lot of different ideas and approaches today. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Trisha from the Viva Engage team and the events team to talk about some more of the work here. Trish.
Thanks so much, Don. So yeah, I'm Trish. I've been a product manager on Engage for almost 6 years now, so a few less than John. And I'm going to do a demo of how to use AMAs today. So let me just start sharing my screen.
Actually, Trish, sorry to interrupt, but I think we're going to sort of set the level first.
Oh,
right?
yes. I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
I was expecting you to say, I'm Trish, and I'm going to introduce Dan. Hey, everybody. Before Trish shows the AMA, we thought we would sort of paint a picture of the landscape of internal events in Microsoft 365. I'm Dan Holm. I'm on the events team as well. I have the honor every day of working with Samir and Trisha and Rocio and Pallavi, who you'll all hear from today, and interacting with John and the incredible Corp Comms team here at Microsoft. And I would like to start with painting a picture of the events landscape as it is today and give you a hint as to where we're going so that we can see the forest before we go into the trees of the individual experiences. I also hope that I can answer some of the questions that were raised in the chat at the beginning of the event that really do relate to sort of the big picture. So let's go through this. Right now, there are 4 scenarios that are supported for events in Microsoft 365. There's a studio production, there is Teams production, meetings, and Q&A only scenarios that are supported. Now, these scenarios can be thought of in a slightly simpler way as a broadcast, which is one-to-many, and that is produced today with Teams live event or Teams town hall. A meeting, which we're in right now, and everyone's super familiar with meetings, or an event with no video. And so you can think of these 4 scenarios mapping to these 3 categories here. Now let's take a quick look first at what these Teams broadcast options do. The Teams broadcast options are all produced in Teams. So the producer, the organizer sit in Teams, and they have the ability to manage what everyone else in what all the attendees see. And that can be done with a simple production with webcams and screen sharing, where it's just like a meeting, it's just a little bit more controlled. The producer is deciding what goes on screen and what gets sent out at any one time. And then there's also the ability to support a studio production with what is called RTMP, Real-Time Meeting Protocol, where a professional studio or encoding equipment can simply take whatever is being produced outside of Teams and stream it through Teams to attendees. So you've got those 2 basic options all within Teams for broadcast. What attendees see is what the producers want them to see. They see the screen, they see the selected presenters, they can react, they can ask questions with Q&A. And so the attendees have a rich experience that is being managed by the actual producers of the event. So why is this not? I'm having a slide build problem. I apologize. Give me 1 second. Go back to where I was. Both the studio production and the Teams production are managed through Teams effectively. That's where the producers are living. Now, studio productions, as I hinted, are the high quality, externally produced events streamed through RTMP. These are the most expensive option because you're literally dealing with an external piece of software, perhaps even an external studio, external vendors that require specialized skills. And so these types of events are generally limited to the most important events in an organization, senior executive events, company-wide all hands, etc. Now, the other option within the Teams production space is a Teams production. Literally what I described, presenters are in Teams, the producer is switching between them and controlling what goes out and the layout of what goes out. This is the easiest to execute. It's the most flexible. You don't need any additional costs or really many more skills. So this is really suited for the easy production, broadcasting, whether company-wide, divisional, departmental, all hands, leadership, expert panels where you've got multiple speakers that you're wanting to switch between. This is an excellent option for one-to-many or few-to-many broadcasts. Now, the third option is Teams meetings, which we're all familiar with. It's exactly this experience. Attendees can share cameras, screens, and audio. Organizers can restrict attendees' participation. So, for example, right now in this meeting, attendees don't have the ability to turn on their cameras or microphones. So you've got the ability to have some control, but in general, it's a much more interactive and engaging environment. It is only suited for meetings up to 1,000 people. After 1,000, the 1,001st person go into a view-only mode, which is effectively the same as a Teams production. So you're probably better off thinking of meetings up to 1,000 people. The Teams productions and studio productions can scale to 10,000, 20,000, or even more, and we can get more into that scale later. And finally, there's Q&A only events. Q&A only events are in Engage and have a landing page where people can go and ask questions and get answers. Today, they are really an asynchronous event, meaning there's no video, and they give a great way to sort of scale knowledge over a longer period of time. I tend to think of these as the most flexible option, especially for time zones, and they're suited for Q&A centric events. So that's the landscape we have today. Now, we will own the fact that it is a challenge right now to identify which tool to use when. And certainly after this masterclass, you'll have a great idea of how to map these capabilities to your particular environment. Because there are 4 scenarios. There are different places you go to create the events in Teams and Engage. Those events can be hosted in a calendar, meaning just a standalone event, or they can be attached to a community or storyline in Engage. And one of the questions that came up early in the event was, what is the advantage of hosting events in Engage versus in Teams? One of the key advantages is they become part of a broader effort to engage a group of people. You're bringing people together in a community. You are addressing people through a storyline. And the event becomes part of the beat of acceleration, which might of engagement, which might include campaigns or Q&A or any other kinds of things that happen in a community or on a storyline. But right now, it is definitely a bit challenging. To be frank, what happened with these capabilities is we built a lot of them during the pandemic, and we were scrambling to address customer scenarios. Now we have the opportunity to really bring them together and create a coherent, unified experience for you and your events. And so this is the first peek at where we're going to go. You'll learn more about this as we go through the presentation. But we're in the process of building a coherent and unified set of event experiences in Engage, where today you can create a studio production or a Teams production in a community. You can host an AMA in a storyline. But we're going to be bringing these broadcast meeting and no video scenarios to both communities and storylines coming soon later this calendar year. So as we have introduce these capabilities, there will be entirely new scenarios like community meetings that haven't existed for bringing people together in a community to share knowledge or share experience. There will be both the broadcast and the no video capabilities in both communities and storylines. That's where we're heading. You'll learn about what we have today, starting with Trish next, and then Samir and others. And then we will also share a look at where we're going, and then we'll come back, revisit this slide, and talk about the timeframes and the expectations you can have. So hopefully that gives you a feeling for the landscape. We know it's a bit fragmented right now, but you can map the existing scenarios to so many of your business needs, and we are working actively to bring these things together for you. So with that, let me hand it off to Trish to demonstrate AMA.
Thanks, Dan. So let me just start sharing my screen. So I'm going to walk through what the experience looks like today, how you can create an AMA on Storyline, and as well as moderate this experience. So I'm going to be Megan. She's a corporate communicator at Contoso, and she's going to create a leadership AMA. So when she goes to create new, she's able to type in the name of her event, put start and end time, and select the visibility. She wants this to be public because it's for the entire organization. And she's able to add the leader that's going to be leading this, which is Patty, who's the president of Contoso. She's going to be the main organizer, so she'll be able to moderate questions, delete stuff, and change any details needed for the event. She wants to enable moderation just because they want to review the questions before they're actually published in case there's any questions that might be off topic for the event or inappropriate, not relevant to what they're talking about. She also wants to enable anonymous. So these questions will be fully anonymous all the way through compliance. And they decided they want to enable this just to make sure people feel comfortable asking questions to their leader. There's also customization options for sending calendar invites and notifications, but she doesn't want to do either of these options, as she's going to send her own calendar invite, and she'll just come back to the page to make sure she's up to date with any new questions that might have been asked. So once she clicks create, now she's taken to the event landing page. This page is now able to be discovered by anyone in the organization and would show up on people's home feed and on Patty's storyline. She's able to kind of see some general info about the event as well as how to promote it, some best practices. And you can see here, once questions come in, they'll show up on this in review tab. Just for the sake of the demo, I'm going to show a filled in version of this experience. So by going back to the home feed, like I mentioned, we can see events that have already been created and happening in the organization. Here, I'm going to click on this one. And I can see new questions that have not yet been approved. So by going to the Publish tab, these are all the questions that have already been approved and that people are engaging with through things like upvoting or reactions or comments. But Patty wants to actually also see if she wants to approve this question. Let's say she decided she wanted to dismiss it for some reason. Then it would now show up in the Dismiss tab of the page. But if she made a mistake and she wanted to restore that, she's easily able to restore that question. It goes back to the in review tab. And from here, she's able to publish that question. And now it's showing up on the publish tab right here. And now everyone can see it and engage with that content when they visit this page. On this page, you can also filter by different sorting options. Something we see being really common internally and with some customers is filtering by most upvoted. This gives you an idea of what the most popular questions are in the AMA and what people really want their leaders to answer. So this way they could decide which questions they want to prioritize asking, especially if they only have a very short time to answer questions. There's a bunch of other details on the right side of this page. These only show up for people who are hosts or organizers of the event. Things like this AMA summary, which gives you some insights about how many people are visiting the page and how engagement looks for your event. This page, the beauty of this page is it will live on long after the event's over. So even once this event ends tomorrow, an organizer can go in and edit and change the engagement options for this event. Maybe they want to turn off new questions and new replies and kind of just freeze the page. That way, it can just be a way to reference Q&A pairs long after the event's over, but not be something that they have to manage for a long period of time. You can also create discussion posts and engage your audience there if you need to send like updates about the event. But all your kind of feed options, deleting, closing, pinning are the same as you would have in your normal Engage communities and storylines. So that concludes our demo on AMAs, and I will hand it over to Samir to show us the live events experience.
Sounds good. That was fantastic. Thanks, Trish and John and Dan. James, would you please switch over to the presentation? Great. So now that we've covered the why and how of running large-scale AMAs for tens of thousands of users, let's shift gears. Let's talk about what it takes to pull off an organization-wide led leader broadcast with tens of thousands of attendees. At Microsoft, we've been doing this for a while, so have some of our really large marquee customers. In fact, we're on the 84th run of the Microsoft Employee Town Hall, where tens of thousands of employees come together on Engage across their PCs, Macs, and mobile to participate in our company moment. So how do you make something as big as this happen? How do you partner with your studio team to produce a seamless, high-impact broadcast event? And that's what Christiana and I are going to do. We're going to geek out for the next few minutes to show you a live end-to-end demo with our fingers crossed for the demo gods. We're going to show you how to run a large-scale studio broadcast event from setup to the post-event experience. So we're going to cover these 4 things over here. One is, how do you go create a live event in your community? How do you go manage producers and presenters? How do you connect these encoders, physical encoders or your virtual encoders? How do you enable captions and so forth? And then how do you go produce this live event? And we're going to show you both the organizer and the attendee experience in real time. And then finally, we'll show you how to manage the video on demand, because really a great event shouldn't be a one-time moment. It should live on, and the impact should just continue long after it's over. So with that, I'd love to pass it over to Christiana to share her screen and show how the magic works. Christiana, over to you.
Thank you, Samir. I'm Christiana Cook. I am the broadcast operations lead for our Microsoft Production Studios facility at Microsoft HQ in Redmond, Washington. I've been in this facility for a little over 10 years now, so I have seen every flavor of streaming at Microsoft. So I'm really excited to share with you guys today how we run events on Viva Engage. Can you see my screen, Samir? We good? I'll just go. Okay.
Yes, it's good. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. Today we'll be doing this demonstration from Patty's account for Contoso. When she isn't running AMAs with Trish, she's running live events. So today we're going to navigate to the community. We're going to be streaming today from leadership. So you can navigate over to the community, and within the community, there's a tab called events. In the events community, and we'll come back to these pre-scheduled events, this is where any of your attendees can organically find events that you've pre-scheduled. So it is nice to be able to kind of find those organically, or you can directly share the links out in all of the ways that we discussed earlier. But today we're going to just walk through creating a new event. By clicking new event, you're going to be prompted with your 2 current broadcast options. Right now, Town Hall and Preview, this is going to be the next iteration that's replacing live event. Right now, this should be available to you guys coming up soon. We're still rolling it out internally at Microsoft. For today's demo, though, we're going to stick with live event. This is something that everybody can currently use and is currently how we're running all of our large-scale broadcasts for the executive level communications. From here, you can create an event name. We're going to call it Demo Company Town Hall. We're going to add our dear friend Joni as a presenter. She's one of my colleagues here at Contoso. You can select your start date, end date, and your start and end time. This is where you can share a description of what the event's about that the attendees will be able to see. Some additional settings, this is really nice, and we use this feature a lot. If you're running a test event, you can select test event, and it actually won't show up on that events page. So people wouldn't organically find any test events or see any test recordings. So we're going to select no today because we do want it to show up. And then this is where you can decide if you want people to be able to come to the page and interact. So sharing Q&A, comments, things like that. You can enable this early so people can come to the page beforehand and share things as well. I'm gonna hit next. Now you can choose how you present. Dan kind of mentioned earlier studio production. That's really what we're gonna focus our demo on today, and that would be the second option. This is where you're basically producing your entire content upstream of Teams and then feeding in that final produced feed via RTMP into the Teams client. Teams Quick Start, we'll take a quick look at later on. This is where more of the quick and dirty, if you want to produce directly in Teams. So you'll bring all of your presenters, your slides, everything into Quick Start and switch it there. So for today, we're going to go with Microsoft Teams, external app or device. Now your page is going to be created. This is now your event landing page. So this is where you can grab this URL. This is where you'll share with all of your attendees to give them the direct link here. This is also where, as an organizer or a presenter, you'll see this right-hand panel. Attendees who are not presenters will not see this. So this is where you can see who's slated to be presenting, how you produce your feed, and the organizer insights, which will show you analytics for the people watching. This is really important when you're doing an RTMP broadcast. This is actually how you get that information to populate into your encoder, and we'll share that step here in a second. And then once all of that's populated, you'll come back on show day and you'll actually produce the event. And this is how you would link to opening that event in Teams and actually doing the producing of the live event. So for today's demo, we're going to go back to the AM version of the Employee Town Hall. So this one we've pre-populated. We've grabbed the RTMP information that you see here, and we've populated it into our encoder. So I'm going to pop over to another machine where I have my Elemental encoder running. This particular encoder brand is actually a very robust production level hardware encoder. You do not need to pay for this level of encoding to do an event like this. This is just what we use in our facility. We really like the redundancy it gives us, the flexibility in all of the settings. In fact, I'll show you briefly just kind of what's in one of these profiles really quick, just for funsies. So today we're just pulling from a loop just for the sake of this demonstration, but you can see that there's a lot of available settings to manipulate in here. Most encoders will have all of this kind of built in and not allow you to adjust it. So for most people, that actually is better. You don't have to worry about kind of the nuts and bolts of the technical pieces. But for us, we really like having that control. And for a lot of our events, we are manipulating a lot of things. The most important thing to share here, though, is kind of the RTMP specific settings. So we have our video settings where we're selecting our resolution and our frame rates. We have some audio settings, and then almost every event we run has some sort of captioning component, whether it's pre-generated captions, human captions, or AI translated captions. In this case, we'll be feeding in the captions via embedded 608, 708. So that's a quick sneak peek into the settings. But we're going to go back to channels. Again, enjoy a sneak peek of all of the events that we run with our team. I'm going to edit this channel just to show you that RTMP information. So we grabbed this ingest information directly from the tool within Viva, and then this is the stream name we grabbed from Viva. So I'm going to go back because I don't need to change anything, and I'm going to go ahead and go back really quick because we actually want to produce this event. So normally how our team works is we'll set up these events well in advance. We'll pre-populate our encoders well in advance with the RTMP information. And then that way, whenever we're ready to produce an event, everything is pre-set up, we're ready to go, and we have a little bit more time and agility to be able to make changes. So we're going to go ahead and produce this. So we're going to open up in Teams. Right now, today, you can't produce an event in the web browser, so you have to launch the client. All right. This is what the interface looks like. You can see here it's got a messaging. It's waiting to add an RTMP feed. So it's basically just waiting now for me to connect to that encoder. So we're going to pop back over to that other machine, and we're going to actually hit play. This is where we cross our fingers, Samir, that our demo goes well. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. We're going to wait until we see this running. And I hear the music. Hopefully you guys don't. I'm actually going to mute it really quick. Otherwise, I'll get distracted. All right. So you can see now one of your presenters will be that RTMP feed. When we show the quick start version later, this is the interface. It looks very similar to this, except for down here, instead of an RTMP feed being your broadcast source, you would be able to feed all of your presenters, your PowerPoints, your videos, those types of things. So I'm going to select the broadcast feed, and that's going to send it into the queue. Now, in this scenario, this is very much structured like the quick start side will be, so we'll get into that later. But I'm going to send this live. All right. It's ready to go. It looks beautiful. The motion's working. I'm going to hit start. Now I'm going to pop back over to my Viva Engage page. Oh, no, this is that. So I'm going to pop back over here, and you should see it pop up here shortly. And there she is. So I'm going to toss it back to Samir now, who's going to show the attendee version, and then we'll come back to me to show you how to close out an event, manipulate the on-demand, and so forth. Without further ado, all yours.
Brilliant stuff, Christiana. That was amazing. All right, can you see my screen again? Yeah? So let me show you the attendee rendition of it. There's been a lot of questions here in Q&A about calendar invites and so forth, and Trish is going to show you some stuff around calendar invites here. But in the meantime, what we see our customers do is they'll just send out a calendar invite to attendees. So this is the attendee side of the story, right? So I see an employee town hall right here popped on my calendar. This is how Microsoft does it. This is how many of our marquee customers do it. They just send out a calendar invite to attendees. And this has got a link to the event page. So it's like employee town hall, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., the one that Christiana is running right now. It's got a link to the event invite over here. So if I go click on this, it's going to take me to the event landing page. That's where the show is running. So that's one way to like get your attendees to the door. What we also do on Engage is we send out a bell notification. So there's an activity right here at the top. As Deborah over here, I can see that, hey, Employee Town Hall AM is live in the leadership community. Go join this event right now. So it sort of nudges me to go do that right there, then and there. Also see this little moniker right next to the community that says that, hey, there's a live event running on that community. If I go click onto this community, I'm going to also see this banner right at the top that says that the Employee Town Hall is running. And now this experience is available across web and also on your favorite mobile app. So like just download the Viva Engage mobile app and you'll be able to see it on iOS and Android. Similar sort of experience, you'll see that banner right at the top. Now, when I go click on this banner over here, it's going to take me directly into the Employee Town Hall. So there you go. I've got the Employee Town Hall running over here. And the feed on the right side over here, I can full screen this. I can enable captions if captions are enabled. And then, of course, questions and discussions over here flowing as the event's happening. Again, people just tapping into the zeitgeist of the event. So this is the attendee experience. Again, banners right in the community as the event's running so people don't miss it. Bell notifications. Obviously, you've got your calendar invite as well. And then folks can go watch this event as it's running live on desktop, web, or mobile. So with that, let me pass it back to Christiana to show us a couple different things over here. One is she's going to show you how to go manage the video on demand once the event is over. And then the second piece over here is to show you, obviously, this took a lot of encoders. It took a lot of magic that Christiana put together. It's not that difficult. You just have got to grab the RTMP link and go, broadcast your event. But there's a simpler way of doing this as well, using your Teams client. Just as, the way we're joining this meeting, you could quickly go produce an event. So Christiana is going to show us that as well. So this is, again, the attendee experience over here. This is actually a footage from the Microsoft Employee Town Hall that was run in February. We're just looping this with our CEO, Satya, over here. Tens of thousands of people came and watched this event. Christiana, back to you. Show us the simpler version of this.
Thank you, Samir. I'm going to retake over my screen share. And let's pause this. All right. So now we're going to talk about ending an event. It's always a best practice to end your event directly in the produced version of Teams. Don't just stop your encoder. So you'll come back here and you'll say, hey, Satya, I'm done hearing you talk. So we're going to hit end. Just kidding, Satya. So we're going to end the live event, and you're going to want to make sure that you sit here and wait until it's fully ended. This is what's going to give your attendee the best kind of ending experience. Otherwise, if you stop the encoder first, they're going to get a messaging that says we will resume shortly or be back soon, thinking that there was a disconnect in the encoder, which is the experience we want, just not when we're actually closing an event down. So now that this is ended, we can actually leave this event. And then we can go back and stop our encoder. So we're going to come back here and we're just going to hit stop and let that do its thing. So it's as simple as that to end an event. We really like that. I did notice in the chat some people asking about encoders. I do want to call out, while we particularly prefer the hardware encoder and the ability to embed captions, you don't need that level. So there's many supported encoders out there. In fact, I think we have a published list somewhere of the ones that we've personally validated using Teams live events. And all of those support RTMP ingest. So you can use really any of those, a mix of hardware, software, those are all available to you. Moving on to how we host the event. Immediately following you stopping the event, if I do a quick refresh, you're going to get kind of an instant on-demand version that's available to you based on the event that you streamed. So you can scrub through here, you can see all of the content we shared, all of that's pretty much immediately available. For our events, we don't always keep the version that we streamed live. For example, we start our events about 30 minutes ahead of time with that slate you saw in the beginning. We don't want people to have to scrub through that. So we actually create a cleaned up version of the file and replace it. So in order to do that, I'll actually go back and show you how to get to the file repository. If you go back to your community homepage, you can scroll down and you can actually see your SharePoint library link under community resources. So if you click here, it will take you to this place. And you'll see all of the events you've run. So here's a couple test events we've run recently. There should be, let's give it a refresh. What did I name it? Oh, this one. So I forgot, I didn't use the one that I created earlier. So if you come into here, you'll actually see the MP4 recording of the video. And all we do is we basically take the recordings that we have on our side, we edit them, and then we match this naming and replace this video file here. So by replacing this video file within this document folder, you're actually going to replace the video that lives on Viva Engage. So that's how we're currently doing it today. There's other options of trimming directly within Stream on SharePoint if you have access to that, but we're not going to dive into that part today. So that is it for this. The last thing I'll just touch on, and Samira is going to mention this a little bit more later as well, is just the insights that you get following an event. So if I go to my past events and find the event we just ran, you have these organizer insights. So you can actually go in here and you can come in here and you can see the engagement of your event, how many people watched it, how long they watched for. You can see there's engagement is more of around like the questions. So, and the people who react to those questions are all listed here. So really great insights, super valuable for both sides. You can kind of get kind of a sense of your viewership success, and you can also get a sense of your engagement success based on those two different pages. All right, now we're just going to quickly go through a quick start event. So we're going to create a new event, and we're going to do live event again. We're going to call this Demo Quick Start. And again, you have the same options as when you schedule in our TMP event. Yes, this is a test. And we're going to select Quick Start. And really all Quick Start, the difference between Quick Start and RTMP is how you're producing the event. The attendee experience in both of these scenarios doesn't change. So now I'm going to open Teams to produce our event. Going now. And so you'll see that the interface here is very similar, if not almost identical, to what we saw earlier with the RTMP. The difference being, instead of saying connect your RTMP, it's requesting that you add a video or content from below. So this is where if you have 3 presenters, you'll have all 3 presenters down here as options. You can switch them into the queue and decide when to send them live to the broadcast. This is kind of more of a traditional like technical directing role almost, but within Teams, where you can pre-produce, you can queue people up. When this person is done speaking, you can send the next person in. You can add kind of a split screen. So if you have content where you're sharing PowerPoint, you can do a mix of PowerPoint and speaker. So those are the 2 kind of pre-existing layouts today. And yeah, so you basically would just assign a person who kind of switches the content from here. I don't recommend presenting and switching. That might be a lot. So make someone else do it for you. But yeah, so really you're just producing the entire event directly here in Teams, and then the attendees would see whatever is in this feed on the Viva Engage community. And I think that's everything. I'm going to send it back to you, Samir. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Christiana. Back to you, James, if you want to share your slide. So
Just going to take a little pause because I had a few questions in the chat. I think Dan's going to jump on as well. First question, Samir, do you mind just running through how we do the event invite again?
Yeah, so currently for live events, the easiest way to send out an invite is for the organizer to go create the event in Engage. Once the organizer goes and creates that event, they're going to get an email, a calendar blob that's got a link to the event landing page. The simplest thing for you to do is to grab that link and send out an email to attendees, a calendar invite to attendees with that link to the event landing page. And then it's like just blobbed on your calendar, 8 to 9 a.m., employee town hall, it's there. And then attendees will go click on that link and then they'll head to the event landing page. Coming down the pike, we're going to have more automated capabilities for you to be able to customize this event invite, send out this event invite to community members and so forth. But today, the way to do it is to grab that link, the event landing page, and then send out just an Outlook calendar invite to attendees.
Excellent, thank you. And Dan, I know we had a few questions just around licensing. What is included with your Microsoft 365 licenses? What requires Viva? If you wouldn't mind just giving a quick explanation for the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. And there have been a couple of really good questions. I'm going to be creating a slide that I'll share at the end to help you make as a decision tree to help you really understand how these things fit together. But to try to paint a picture today in Teams, you have the broadcast and the meeting capabilities as part of your Microsoft 365 license. In Engage today, you have live events and communities as part of your Microsoft 365 license, which are today possible to produce using Teams live events. And as we've talked about, we're heading into preview for Teams Town Hall. So all of those are Microsoft 365, available to all Microsoft 365 customers at no extra charge. The Q&A only scenario, which is the Ask Me Anything event, is available on Storylines for Viva customers. And we'll talk more about what's coming next and sort of our thinking, but that's the situation today. And I'll work on the decision tree between now and the end of the session.
Now that I think we're handing it off to Trish, I will get the slides back up.
Yeah, there's just one last slide. I just want to recap what we just went through with Christian and I, and then we can hand it off to Trish if that's cool.
Thank you.
All right, the next slide, please. I'm going to take control here. And yeah, brilliant. So, just to quickly recap, here's what we covered, Christian and I. We went and created a broadcast event. Again, this is meant for large scale, tens of thousands of people, or if using an encoder, or if you want to go create an event really, really quick for a small audience, then you may want to just use the Teams Quick Start option, which Christiana showed at the end. So that's when you're going to choose your broadcast mechanism, either the professional gold standard version using encoders, or the simple version just using your Teams client. You're obviously going to produce that event using Teams, get multiple presenters on stage, switch cameras between presenters, put somebody on focus and so forth. And once the event is over, then you can go manage the event recording in your SharePoint library. Every community's got a SharePoint library attached to it. That's where the MP4 file gets saved. And then you can go edit that MP4 file. And that's what attendees will see after the event is over on the event landing page. And then the fifth thing over here is to go report on insights. Like Christiana mentioned, there's two sections to it. There's reach and engagement. Reach is all about attendance, total number of people in the event, how many people are watching it live, just so that you get a sense of how well your event is faring. And then engagement is about what did people do in that event? Questions, discussions, social proof, and so forth, so that you could truly measure the efficacy of your event. So that was live events today. And then further down the pike, we're going to have town halls coming. So stay tuned for that. I popped in a link to sign up for town halls as well. So please feel free to sign up for Engage town halls coming down the pike over here. With that, I'd love to pass it over to my friend Trish. Take it away.
Thanks, Amir. Let me just take control. So next, our next segment for this presentation is just to kind of show what's coming soon to events and Engage. So I'll be talking about some of the new scenarios that we're building for Engage events. Our focus with these scenarios is really to reduce customer confusion and minimize the need to have to stitch multiple experiences together for just one event. We'll also see a sneak peek of new stuff coming to Discovery and notifications, as well as how we're delivering value to Copilot through event experiences like Q&A management. But first, I just kind of wanted to mention that with all the new experiences coming to Engage events, we've really doubled down on making sure that we're building capabilities for all the key users of events, attendees, presenters, and organizers across each stage of the event lifecycle. So what do we have today? What did the two demos we just saw? We saw Storyline AMAs, which is really used today as a way to do async events or to gather questions before the live portion of an event. And then we saw community live events. So this is the experience that Samir and team just showed. And we also saw at the very beginning how John mentioned, sometimes they knit these experiences together, gathering questions with AMAs before the event and answering those questions live through community live events or other experiences and teams. But what's coming tomorrow? So we're going to build on top of our most advanced feed, which is the AMA feed, because it has things like moderation capabilities, upvoting, all that good stuff, anonymous posts and replies. But this is a no video experience. So that experience will still exist today. But if you wanted to have a live portion of your event, you could attach a Teams town hall or a meeting to this experience. So that means that this feed that you see here, this event landing page experience you see, is what the experience will look like before the event starts. And then if you connected it to a Teams town hall, what we're calling broadcast, then the same feed that you had before the event is now what you see as the feed during the event. So you can answer those questions live. This really just builds on today's live events experience that we just saw and brings capabilities like moderation to that existing experience. This is a one-to-many experience though, right? You have a set of presenters, a set of people who can come off camera and mic, and everyone else is just viewing that content. If you wanted a more interactive experience, we're going to offer the ability to attach this to a meeting. So this allows you to have almost all attendees, if you wanted, that would be up to your control, coming off camera and mic, up to 1,000 people. And again, the feed that you had before the event is the same feed that you see in the Q&A tab during the event. That Q&A tab is like what we're using today. People are asking and engaging in that Q&A chat. So just imagine if you could ask questions before that event started, it would have pre-populated that experience. And so those are the 3 scenarios that we plan to support in the upcoming quarters. And these will be available not just on Storyline, but also in communities. So now let's see this kind of come to life in a prototype. Let me just share my screen. So now we're going to be Mona. And Mona is a corporate comms person at Contoso. And she's going to create a new event. So she's going to fill in some details. It's for a leadership summit that's happening. She puts the start time and some descriptive details. She wants to host this in a community, specifically the Contoso News and Events community. She also wants to add some in-person locations because this is going to be a hybrid event. And for privacy of this event is going to follow the privacy of the community. So because News and Events is a public community at Contoso, the event's public as well. So it's public for everyone at the company to join and engage with. Mona's the organizer, and she wants to add other community admins as the co-organizers of this event. And she's going to have some of the leaders at Contoso be the hosts. They're the people that the attendees are coming to get their questions answered. And they're going to have some other presenters helping make sure the event runs smoothly. Here are your options. So if you wanted it to be a more interactive experience, like I mentioned, you can select a meeting. Or if you want it to be a broadcast, this one-to-many town hall experience, you can select that. If for some reason you didn't want video added, you just don't enable this option during creation, and then you can still have an async experience just like you have AMAs today. She's going to just produce this through Teams, which we saw, but she has all the other capabilities of how she might want to produce this event that we went into detail about just a few minutes ago. She also has some customization options about how this event would be displayed. So today with live events, we only support the ability for this experience to be embedded within Engage. But if you wanted to have it pop out into a Teams meeting window, that would be a customization option that you as an organizer can do. We also have the same moderation capabilities and anonymous capabilities that I showed in the AMA demo, so I'm not going to go into that specifically. But we will see a new capability called private reply, which allows you to actually respond to a question while it's in the in review state. So if someone asks a question that's off topic or not relevant for the event, you can offer them a chance to edit that question with the hopes of still getting it to be published. So now she's going to create this event, and this takes her to a landing page. So this is kind of just building on the landing page we've seen for events and Engage today. There will be additional capabilities. I know this is a question in chat, like being able to customize cover photo. So we'll make sure those kind of capabilities are available. And there'll be a new experience also called event updates, which builds on our like pin discussion post experience, but actually is going to notify the attendees of the event. So if you want to send important information, welcoming them, telling them the topics that they should ask questions on, or just letting them know when stuff changes throughout different phases of the event, this is the kind of place where you can easily reach all the people coming to the event. So I'm just going to show how Mona can kind of start this welcome post and let them know what kind of questions they should be asking. Once that's posted, people can engage with that conversation just like they can with conversations today. She also wants to promote this in a community. So she selects a community to promote this to, and she's going to actually make it an announcement so everyone gets a notification about this. And you can see how she added a link to this event, which is a rich link preview with the ability for users to register RSVP to this event or even share it to other locations. And this not only would reach users in Engage, but if they were in Teams, it would also reach them through the activity bell in Teams, through some of our Teams integration capabilities. So really just meeting users in the flow of work, whether that's in Engage or in Teams. Now we're going to be MG price. So we're going to see the attendee version of this experience. You can also see that Mona actually posted a poll that MJ price can actually engage with, but just to kick off engagement for the event. But MJ wants to just ask a question. So she decides to ask a question. And now from this My Questions view, she's able to see the status of her question, which is obviously in the in review state because moderation was enabled for this event. She can also see that one of her other questions was dismissed and get some information from Mona about why. And how she might be able to change that, or just information about her question and why it wasn't published. So that's the before the event experience. And then when this event actually goes live, they can join from a calendar invite or from that event landing page. There will also be a join option. But in this case, Mona decided she wanted to send a custom calendar invite to all the people in the community. And so now when the event's about to start, she's able to join this event. And this opens a pop-out Teams experience because that was the display option that she chose. And all the questions that were asked before the event started are now showing up here in the Q&A tab. As an organizer, you can still review questions, dismiss them. All the same capabilities that you could do before the event are available during the event as well. And here, just going back, you can kind of see how these questions are the same as what we saw before. Oops, sorry, let me just go back here. You can also see that there's video questions. So if people wanted to kind of mimic this coming up to the mic experience, truly a hybrid experience, they can ask a video question. Sorry, the prototype, there we go. And that can be played back live. So people can feel like they're mimicking that in-person experience. And then when the leader actually responds to that question, an organizer can capture that segment of the video, mark it as answered live, and now that Q&A pair is completed. And this is really important because what we hear a lot is questions get answered live all the time. And then that content's never captured after the event's over. This way, if someone came back to this event landing page experience and engaged from the community, they're able to see this without actually having to watch the complete video recording. Now, after the event's over, this page is still able to be engaged with. The video on demand is going to show up at the top of this page for people to play back. And then the Q&A is going to live on with the community. As long as the community is available and not deleted, this content will remain. And as I showed with AMAs, a best practice we see organizers doing after the event is over is just disabling some of the engagement options for attendees, kind of freezing this page. So it just really becomes a place that people can go back to retrieve information, not something they have to manage over a long period of time. And then after the event's over, they can kind of just catch up on insights and understand the impact of their event and maybe where they need to improve for future events. So this is really building off the live events insights that we have today, as well as some insights that you might see in communities and bringing those to events as well. So that concludes kind of what's coming. I was obviously only showing the broadcast scenario, but as I mentioned, there are 3 scenarios will be coming to a preview over in the next quarter in both communities and storyline. Now, James, if we want to start sharing again, we can show what's coming to Discovery for events. So event discovery, we want to make sure event discovery is great. Today, there's experiences for discovery just in communities, kind of viewing a list of events. But we want to make sure that there's one place to discover events across your organization. And so we want to bring like an events tab in the left nav, easy access to see all events happening across your organization that you have access to. And it'll also be prioritized based on what's relevant to you and what your interests are. So if there's topics that you follow, if there's leaders that you follow, or just people you follow on Storyline, those are going to be highlighted and recommended to you. Or if there's organizational events from leaders in your org chart, those will also be highlighted kind of at the top of the experience. But this really just gives you a way to discover events coming across your company, which we don't really have a good experience for that today. Additionally, we're going to be bringing this kind of discovery experience to digest emails as well. So people don't come and just naturally discover content in Engage. This is a way to kind of, again, meet people in the flow of work, let them know, hey, these are events that are upcoming in your organization. These are maybe conversations you missed out on or events you missed out on, how you can catch up. So this really gives them a summary and recap of things they might have missed, and also a way to let them know and RSVP to ones they might be interested in. So we're really excited to bring those experiences to you guys soon. And with the discovery stuff as well, we really think this can help make sure we keep attendance high, as engagement and attendance is really the key to making sure events are successful. Now I'm going to hand it over to Pallavi to give us a little update on what's coming for Copilot experiences.
Thanks, Trish. Hi, everyone. I'm Pallavi. I'm a product manager on the Engage team. And this summer, I'll be rounding up a year with the team. Today, I'm so excited to talk you through our very early days of Copilot and AI agents for Viva Engage events. And for this, I'm going to touch across 2 critical investment areas in this space. So the first one is what you see on the screen right now. It is to get Copilot to distill rich knowledge from events and surface the right answer instantly. So let me break that down a bit for you. If you look at the example here, I'm searching for what are the new marketing tools or technologies that we are implementing within Microsoft. I'm using my best friend, M365 Copilot, to search for that answer. Within seconds, I can see that Copilot surfaces an answer, which was provided in a marketing all-hands event that was hosted on Viva Engage when someone asked a similar question. Clicking on the reference takes me to exactly that post within Engage, where I can engage further and try to get more sense out of the question that was asked. I'm not part of the marketing org, and so there would have been almost zero chance of me randomly stumbling upon this. But since we made Engage event content available to Copilot to reason over, You now have the wonderful ability to reuse knowledge that was generated by your own employees within your own organization. We are so excited to share that this capability for public AMAs and live events is coming to you very, very soon. The second initiative that we're looking at is to give event organizers an intelligent co-organizer to improve efficiency in delivering smooth and impactful events. I'm sure you can all relate with how difficult it gets with managing a ton of different competing priorities while you have to run an event. We're still in very early days of identifying key opportunities in this space, and some of those you can see listed here. So let me walk you through some of these. The first is event creation that can help suggest optimal configurations for setup, taking away that mental load from you. The second is a run of show proposal to make sure that the agenda moves forward smoothly. The third is a smart question approval or flagging system based on tone and relevancy so that you don't have to spend too much time moderating the event feed. The fourth is a smart question management feature that allows you to theme and summarize similar questions so that you can handle them much more seamlessly. The fifth one is capturing question and answers that are asked live for posterity so that that knowledge doesn't just get lost within the video or the transcript, but is available for posterity's sake. And then the last one is something that we consistently hear from our event organizers, which is a customizable and shareable post-event summary to amplify the impact of an event long after it has concluded. We would love to hear if these explorations align with your event management needs. Hopefully there should be a poll in the chat. Please let us know which of these resonate with you, but also definitely let us know in comments if there are any additional jobs to be done or opportunities where you see that AI and agents can add value that you don't see represented here. I think all I can say is that these are really, really exciting times. I'm sure you can all agree, and we are super optimistic about the future of events with AI. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Dan.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Pallavi. It really is exciting to be part of an effort to really apply AI to solve our customers' problems. It's a wonderful place for us as a team to be working right now. We really look forward to hearing how we can best help you by applying AI and automation to your event flows. And definitely stay tuned. We'll have a lot more exciting stuff to share this year, later on this year, I should say. I think what I am going to do, actually, let me do a couple of things here. We are going to turn our attention to the roadmap and looking ahead. But I also, as I promised, do want to try to bring a little bit of decision-making guidance to the discussion as well. So I'll share some slides directly from my computer as well. But let's start with the roadmap since it's part of this core deck. So looking ahead, you've seen what we have available today with live events powered by Teams Town Hall or the legacy Teams live events production capability that themselves support both studio broadcasts and production broadcasts. You've seen AMAs from Storylines that allow question and answer only experiences. And we've talked about how you can think about these options in three broad categories: broadcast, meeting, or no video. And that we're going to be bringing these all to both communities and storylines. So just to, well, we will give this slide to you as a takeaway, but just to put some time and some thought to when you will have access to these. Again, Storyline AMAs are available today as our community live events. We're just entering the preview phase for Teams Town Hall. Based on customer feedback, that will then go GA, hopefully over the course of the summer. And we are actively working on the following. In the coming soon, the way to translate that is we are actively doing work on these features. So we'll be bringing them as quickly as we can to customers, and we'll have more to share about the exact timing over the coming months. But Storyline events, both broadcasts and meetings. Inside Microsoft, we already have Storyline meetings shipped and being used internally. Community events, which will bring both meeting and Q&A only events to communities, and will enhance the existing community broadcast experience with advanced moderation, the ability to moderate Q&A and to support anonymous, etc. Event listings to make it easier for someone in the context of a community or storyline to see what events are going on there. And all of these event capabilities will be coming into Teams because of our upcoming integrations with Teams. For those of you who maybe haven't followed the news as closely, we are bringing storylines and Zoom communities into Teams as native things in Teams. So people's storylines and communities will appear alongside chats, channels, meetings, etc. That is at work that's actively happening. We'll be entering preview of storyline in Teams soon. And as we bring those experiences into Teams, the events experiences will come with them. So you'll see storyline events and community events as those integrate into Teams. And just so you know, it's not that Engage is going away, but we want to make sure that if you are in Teams, you can have all of these capabilities to communicate, engage, collaborate in one place without having to go to a separate app. And then finally, coming soon, bringing public event content to Copilot. Pallavi addressed this, but this is the idea that that Q&A content that is being shared in an event will then be available to Copilot to ground it and therefore provide answers to people based on the knowledge that's shared in a meeting. And our goal there really is to unlock that important information and knowledge that is shared in meetings so that it can be reused on an ongoing basis within an organization. Then what's top of mind? And top of mind means we are committed to getting there. We don't have it, we're not actively doing work, but it's next on deck for us. And again, we certainly would hope to bring these to you over the course of this calendar year, but we're not able to commit to any timelines right now. An org-wide events listing. Trish mentioned this, but the ability to find events across Teams and Engage in one place. Event updates and notifications. Right now, the event landing page is really just Q&A, but we'll be bringing the ability for organizers to share updates about an event, to share announcements from the event without having to go to a separate, tool like Outlook or Teams to do so, or Engage to do so. So those sort of keeping people up to date flows will be part of the event experience. Event cover photos, we know people want them. We want them too. We're trying to get the core scenarios out to start getting feedback on the functionality and performance of the core experiences. Then things like event cover photos are certainly going to need to happen. And unlocking private event content for Copilot. And finally, bringing some of those agentic skills that Pallavi mentioned to accelerate organizer effectiveness and eventually attendee experience as well. Before I get my job taken away from me for disclosing too much, I'll just say there's a lot more. There are things we are so excited to share with you later on this year. So stay tuned. There's a lot of good stuff coming. And then the last bit of content I'd like to share, and I'll just do this straight from my computer. So let me get it into presentation mode. Is a bit of that decision-making capability. So give me 1 second so I can build this slide correctly. So this is Dan working in real time for you. Let's hopefully this will make some sense. So let me share my screen. There were a number of questions about the different event capabilities and sort of how to interpret those. And so I've put together a rough decision-making tree. We'll pretty this up and enhance it over the course of the next couple of days and get it out for you. But right now we have the 3 broad meeting scenarios. The broadcast, which again, producer manages the content, could be coming from a studio, could be managing Teams. The meeting, where basically attendees can share their cameras and screens and audio, although with meeting options, you have the ability to restrict that somewhat. And finally, the Q&A only event. So we have those 3 scenarios on the left. There are 2 Q&A experiences. There are simple Q&A, which is open conversation and Q&A that you see in live events today. And there's the more advanced experience that supports moderation, anonymous, and other moderation-related capabilities. There's different scale levels and there's different availability. So let's map these together. Today, live events in communities is a broadcast. It again, both studio and Teams produced. It supports simple open Q&A. It scales for up to 10 to 20,000 concurrent live attendees, meaning people actually watching the broadcast when it's happening, and unlimited viewing of the recording on demand. And these can be hosted from communities. Then there are several other paths you can follow if you want different combinations of experiences. For example, if you want a more advanced Q&A experience for your broadcast and you still want it to scale, today you would do that as a standalone event created in Teams. You could create a town hall event in Teams that would be producer managed, advanced Q&A, and scale up to 10, 20,000 live attendees. And by the way, the difference there is the 10,000 concurrent live attendees is part of the normal Microsoft 365 license. The 20,000 concurrent live attendees is part of Teams Premium license. Meetings we all know about, and they support up to 1,000 people. Today, they can only be created from Teams. And finally, the Q&A only event has advanced Q&A experiences, unlimited numbers of attendees because it's asynchronous, and today is only available as storyline and events for Viva customers. So this is your decision tree today of the options you have available for you. Somewhat simplified because there's some other features that play in, but I think these are the most critical features. As we look forward to this more unified experience as the coming months progress, you will really only have to make a choice based on the type of interaction you want and the scale you want. So broadcast for, again, producer managed, meeting for everyone can share. They each have their associated scale limitations, but the event experience will have the same options regardless of what you choose. You'll have an event landing page with the event information, updates, and Q&A. The event landing page is that evolution of today's AMA landing page. You'll have advanced Q&A available across all of these different scenarios, and you'll have a better after-event experience with the video on demand and event summaries. And all of these event types will be available from any storyline, community, or creating directly from inside Teams. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of a feeling of what your decision paths, what your available paths are today, and what's coming soon. And James, I think that sets us up to open up for a few minutes of Q&A, right?
It does. Maybe I can invite everyone on the team to turn your cameras back on, and we will start to answer some questions. Dan, I think the first one again, already, sorry for doing this again, just another clarification on licensing, especially with all the upcoming capabilities. There's been a few questions on that.
So yes, again, today, the AMA is available only as a storyline event, and it is only available to Viva customers who have either the communications and communities license or the Viva Suite license. As we bring these new capabilities together, we will be evaluating the right way to package and release them to customers. Yeah, we are not ready to share with you yet, but I will share a principle with you, which is today you can go to Teams and you can create a broadcast or a meeting with advanced Q&A capability. That's available to all Microsoft 360 customers. It would not make a whole lot of sense for us to add that capability to Engage and charge differently for it. So that's a principle that is informing our thinking, but we are not ready to announce exactly what the licensing will be for these new unified capabilities. I would also say on that regard, as we finalize our thinking in that space, you have the opportunity to run a trial of Viva. You can get a trial for a subset or for your entire organization of the communications and communities license of Viva Engage. And that's a great way to actually take advantage of the Q&A only scenario, the AMA. And by the time you're done with that trial, we'll probably have some news for you on the licensing moving forward. So use the trial, it's free, and it's a great way to experience these capabilities. James, anything else on that line that you'd like me to address?
I know we've been asked lots of times, will this session be recorded? Yes, it's being recorded. The blog link we'll put in the chat again. Later this week, you will see the recording, and we'll also make the slides available. It takes a little longer to get that up on the adoption site for the slides. But maybe I'll pick a few questions from the chat. The first one is, can you the ability for most users to do an AMA, we may want to reserve this just for our leaders?
Great question. Today, we do not have that capability. We have heard the request, but today it is associated with your ability to have a storyline. So if you have a storyline, you can, and you have the license, you can create AMAs. So there are two controls available today. One is you have a per user storyline, so you might deploy storyline only to your lead. Second is the Viva license, which might be a control you can use. But one of the reasons why, well, there's several reasons why we haven't shipped that extra control yet, and it's something we might look at. But keep in mind, any user can go to their team's calendar and create a meeting with Q&A. So, and that's true of all Microsoft 365 customers. So there's not really, there is an equivalent scenario already part of the product experience. So limiting it in one place just wasn't something that we prioritized, but we're very open to your feedback and look forward to hearing that. James, was that, did I get that whole question? Was there a second part?
That sounds great. Thank you.
Sure.
Another question we've had, I've seen it a few times, is what's the attendee limit for live events?
Yeah, great question. Yeah. Samir?
Oh, yeah, I could address that. So currently it's 10,000 attendees, 10,000 live concurrent viewers can watch a live event on Engage. There's a program called Live Events Assistance Program. So if you want an event with higher numbers, just reach out through that program and we can up the limits for you. Once we get Teams Town Hall capabilities, another broadcast mechanism available in Engage, it's going to be similar. So 10,000 concurrent viewers on Engage can go watch that live event or that broadcast event, which should address the needs for most customers. But again, if you've got a need for like higher numbers, reach out to the Live Events Assistance Program and we'll make it happen for you. I popped a link to the Live Assistance Program here in chat. So yeah, that should address it.
I think it's worth noting that and as we look at data of customers using these, there aren't many events that have more than 10,000 concurrent live attendees. Even at Microsoft, it took us a long time to get to the point where we had more than that coming. The second point I'll share is we are actively working on scaling all of our capabilities in this space. Inside Microsoft, we now are hosting Satya town halls with 40,000 concurrent attendees. So the capabilities are getting better. And as we feel we've reached a level of reliability and stability that our external customers expect, we will be looking at how and when we can raise those limits. So again, 10,000, but you start with 10,000 in your head. If you know you're gonna have more than that concurrent live attendees, please reach out through the Live Events Assistance Program.
Okay, I think we have time for one last question, which is I see a lot of people excited over all the upcoming capabilities. How, if someone would like to in their organization, how would they get involved in previewing some of them?
Great question. Trish, you want to take that?
Yeah, for now, just send Dan or I an email or a note and we can add you to a list. We have a running list right now of all the folks that will send information about the preview, hopefully in the next quarter or so.
And Trish, is your email and first.last or is it tlibrooke?
First.last.
I'll put our emails in the chat for everybody.
Thank you. And I think as we're coming up on the half hour, just a few announcements and a bit more information for everyone. The first is we do have a virtual events playbook. Please follow the link. I'll ask someone maybe to put the link in the chat as well for those of you where the PowerPoint Live is not cooperating. It's a full playbook that includes much of the stuff that we've shown today. And then just reminders of a few of the things we showed at the beginning. Our first Friday on April the 4th on AI prompting for communicators. It's going to be a great event with a lot of sharing and a lot of information. So to boost your prompting abilities as a communicator. And a reminder of our brand new Modern Comms site, which is all about everything AI and for comms in particular, driving business transformation, AI transformation. It's a one-stop shop for a whole bunch of resources to help you get started and help with driving that AI transformation. Reminder also of the discount code for the Microsoft 365 Community Conference, where some of our presenters today will be in Vegas at the conference and will be presenting, and are looking forward to meeting you, answering your questions, and hanging out as well. So if you want any more information, please reach out to us, and definitely go sign up. You may have noticed that we really like our customer community. Our customer community is as active as the chat and the Q&A was in this meeting today, and then some. Please join us, and you will be able to answer questions directly of the people who presented today, and many others, everyone answering in the Q&A, and you'll be able to ask questions of each other, which is the real purpose of our community, so you can connect with your peers also running Viva Engage in their organizations. Another reminder that we had, Microsoft has created an awesome ebook on deploying Viva Engage based on our experiences of doing this at Microsoft. It's 3 chapters. It has a wealth of information. We used a lot of it for our training and adoption masterclass 2 weeks ago. And finally, a reminder, if you haven't seen the recording, some of the things that were shown today were also included in our What's New and Next with Viva Engage roadmap presentation. You can watch the recording. It's only from February, so it's pretty up to date. And I don't have a slide for it. It's disappeared, but please sign up for our final masterclass in 2 weeks' time, which will be all on data and analytics. So we've shown you everything from getting started to community management, to communications, to training and adoption. We've done live events. Now, once you've done all those things, how do you measure and act upon those measurements and analytics that you get? But all I have left to say finally is, first of all, thank you to Samir, Trisha, Christiana, Pallavi, John, Dan, Rocio. Apologies we couldn't get your microphone on, but thank you so much for putting this together and presenting. Thank you to our Brains Trust, who have been super busy answering all the questions in the Q&A. And it's just left to me to wish everyone a great rest of your day.